All right, continuing the backlog. This is a still life. It's oil on canvas. It's called Working Man's Breakfast. And this is one of the few that I will have on here that was actually a class assignment. We had the assignment to put together a still life that was a story. And so I put together this still life, and some of you might recognize the cup. That is my great uncle's cup, and I was able to track down these sugar cubes that he used to have always available to put in instant Folgers coffee, and I was really kind of frustrated. I couldn't find a pair of worn leather gloves, which would have been more appropriate, but there was a guy near our house who was always working in his shop, and it just occurred in my head, I was certain that he would have a very worn pair of gloves. And one day I stopped and I just asked him, I said, "Hey, I'm an art student and I really want a really worn pair of gloves to try and paint. Do you have any?" And he said, "Oh yeah." And I told him I would get him new gloves or something. He's like, "Oh no, just take them." And so I ended up taking these old pair of just mechanic gloves. And this piece is kind of a funny memorial to me of many, many before the sun comes up mornings that I spent at different people's houses in my youth during calving or lambing or anytime in the winter in the Dakotas when the morning hours are slim and there was a poor light bulb in a kitchen and somebody came in from a tractor or something, and they would very purposefully set their gloves palms up on top of each other, because even though they almost shouldn't be on the kitchen table at all, at least if they were on the kitchen table and they were palms up, you were keeping the frost and ice and stuff from dripping right onto the table. And I don't know if it's a habit anybody knows that they have, but it's a habit I've noticed more than once or twice, and it just always, the care in that was just very sweet to me. And then just the regularness. The spoon and the napkin were components I got kind of pushed into adding. I don't hate the spoon, but I'm not thrilled with it either. Actually, I'm not even thrilled with the whole composition. I was very irritated with, this is where I switched, right before I switched from a painting major to a metals major, and I was told to make up a story scene, and then it was attempted to change my composition, which would not have been part of my story, and of course you have to some when you're in a class, but anyway, that's a whole nother subject. I like the idea of doing some of these story stills. That's a little bit what I did with the Peterson story still that I showed you guys as the print. And I wouldn't hate doing it again, and I do actually have a really deep appreciation for still life as just a genre, because it's not really about fruit or cups or anything. It's about this appreciation of light and really starting to paint the light instead of the form. And so someday when I have lots of time for art and I'm less constrained, I do intend to do a lot more still lifes and a lot more life drawings, because that is where you really increase your skill. And all of that skill in representing the mundane is what is useful to me when I want to represent the fantastical. So, anyway. All right, so that is Working Man's Breakfast.